Today, we're diving into a case about a confessed robber, a missing shotgun, and two police officers who apparently had a sudden, overwhelming urge to discuss local school safety protocols while transporting a suspect. This is the case of Rhode Island versus Innis. The year is 1975. The place is Providence, Rhode Island, known as the Ocean State for its extensive coastline, beaches, and seafood, including clam cakes and stuffies. A man named Thomas Innis has just been arrested for robbing a cab driver while wielding a sawed-off shotgun. Cops find him, they arrest him, and he's hit with the full Miranda treatment. And Innis, being a smart suspect, says, "I understand my rights, and I want a lawyer." Miranda versus Arizona is very clear on this. Once a lawyer is requested, all interrogation must cease. Full stop. End of conversation. When other police officers arrived at the arrest scene, respondent was twice again advised of his Miranda rights, 3 times in total. That's right, 3 separate officers warned him of his rights. Innis is being driven by 3 officers. 2 officers start having a little chat. A totally spontaneous, earnest, 2-man book club discussion about the missing shotgun.
You know, Patrolman McKenna, I frequent this area. There's a lot of handicapped children running around in this area because of that school nearby.
Oh, God forbid, God forbid one of those kids finds a loaded sawed-off shotgun. They could hurt themselves.
Innis overheard the conversation made by the 2 officers. This is a 5-second, highly produced emotional appeal designed to tug at the one conscience Innis might have left. They didn't mention the shotgun was missing. They didn't mention shells. They went straight for the most devastating possible hypothetical victim, the helpless, handicapped little girl. And what happens? Innis, the tough guy who just robbed a cab driver, cracks. He interrupts the conversation and says, "Turn the car around. I'll show you where the gun is." It worked, like a charm. Upon returning to the scene of the arrest where a search for the shotgun was in progress, respondent was again advised of his Miranda rights, replied that he understood those rights, but that he wanted to get the gun out of the way because of the kids in the area in the school, and then led the police to the shotgun. So, the question goes all the way up to the Supreme Court. Did the officers interrogate Innis in violation of his Miranda rights? The Rhode Island Supreme Court said, yes, absolutely. That was subtle coercion, which is the equivalent of interrogation. They saw through the whole theatrical performance. But the U.S. Supreme Court, Justice Stewart writing the opinion, said, nope, not interrogation, and here's why. According to the court, they had to create a new definition for interrogation. It's not just express questioning, it's also the functional equivalent. The functional equivalent is any words or actions on the part of the police that the police should know are reasonably likely to elicit an incriminating response from the suspect. This definition focuses on the perceptions of the suspect, but with a huge caveat: the police have to know or reasonably expect it to work. So, the court applies this definition to the sad cops in the patrol wagon. The court says, first, it was not express questioning. Second, it was not the functional equivalent of questioning because the officers couldn't have known it would work. The court says there was nothing in the record to suggest the officers knew Innis was peculiarly susceptible to an appeal to his conscience concerning the safety of handicapped children. What? Are we now requiring police departments to administer a handicapped child safety conscience test to every suspect to determine their susceptibility? Do the cops need to say, "Hey Innis, are you the kind of guy who would feel really bad if a little girl got hurt by a gun you left lying around," before they start the monologue? The Supreme Court is saying, Gleckman and McKenna were just having a genuine, brief, offhand dialogue about community safety that just so happened to perfectly solve their biggest problem. Justice Stevens, in his dissent, called it what it was: the difference between the approach required by a faithful adherence to Miranda and the S-tinted test applied by the court today. He basically said the majority created a massive loophole that incentivizes police to use psychological ploys just shy of an actual question mark. In the end, the Supreme Court vacated the Rhode Island judgment and allowed the evidence, the shotgun and Innis's statement, to be used. The conviction was upheld. The lesson for police is clear: if a suspect asks for a lawyer, don't ask them a question. Just dramatically worry out loud about the most vulnerable members of society. And for the rest of us, the case of Rhode Island versus Innis is the perfect proof that sometimes, the subtle compulsion you're subjected to isn't interrogation. It's just a brilliantly executed piece of emotional manipulation sanctioned by the highest court in the land.